Designated. So, okay, so I will. We have done this once before, so we'll see how well this goes. As far as having, usually we have one guest. We will have two, and last time it went okay. And this is definitely one where feel free to, you know, say, you know, Ish or John or whoever, you know, or whatever. So you can cross talk is okay. The way we do this is it's going to be basically we're going to try to keep it conversational and very organic. I'll start off. This is we'll do 1 hour block here. It's going to end up being 2 episodes. There is YouTube and then there's just audio only podcasts. We have like a green room beforehand, so we're recording. You'll see there will be some of the recording will show up on YouTube, and then the entry into the podcast. And at the end, we'll wrap up the podcast, and then we'll have a bonus section, basically some bonus information, where we'll for this one, I'm going to ask each of you for a gem of some nugget of advice that you would give to probably somebody doing an AI project. I think is how we want to we're going to focus because that's pretty much where we're going to go in our conversation. When we started off, it'll be very obvious because I'll do a 3, 2, 1, and then I'll introduce the podcast. I'll introduce myself. Michael will introduce himself, and then I'll toss it to you guys. I guess, John, you can go first when I do that as far as the introductions, and then Piyush, and then we'll just dive in. We'll go from there and start right into the conversation. So feel free to give your background, talk about Fusion Hive, however you want to start that introduction. We run it all the way through, even though it splits into 2 episodes. We run it all the way through. We don't have like a commercial break or anything in between it. So I think that's good. Any questions from you guys?
I don't think so. Other than, so you mentioned with the 2 guests, any suggestions on what you would do differently to make it better the previous time that you guys tried to do it?
Oh man, good questions right from the start. Typically, especially because it was a similar pairing that we talked to before, we both have the same knowledge, different perspectives. So I think it would basically be just one of you sort of step in, and then the other one would probably follow through and add your perspective. I think that'll help quite a bit. Or if, heaven forbid, if you guys have something where you disagree, that's almost even better because then we can actually talk, debate what's better in this situation, especially because I think from our prior conversations, all 3 of us agree on almost everything. So debate is probably not going to be a lot. It's going to be a little bit more of like, this is where we've seen this issue.
Okay.
The focus, like I said, is AI exposes the cracks. So this is definitely something very much along the lines of the conversations we have. Is that AI is going to show you not going to necessarily fix everything. It's probably going to show you where the cracks are in your organization. And that, if there's no other questions, Michael, audio all good?
Let's just do a quick sound check, John.
Yep. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3.
Good. And how do you pronounce her name?
Piyush.
It's one.
Piyush.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. I can hear you good. Excellent. All right. We're good, Rob.
Okay. Excellent. And hopefully, because I'm in a slightly different place, I won't have any internet choppiness this time. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing season 28 of Developreneur, Building Better Developers podcast. And we are diving right into yet another really cool interview. But first, I am Rob Broadhead, one of the founders of Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you avoid expensive technology mistakes before they happen. We help you get clarity so that you can make sure that big choice, that big investment you're making actually comes up on the right side of statistics for failed versus success. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing is, we are getting into that season, that time of year that, funny enough, is seasonally very big for us in the consulting world and the software development world. It seems like every year, as we get into July, it sort of like slows down, but then August and September and October just goes crazy because everybody's trying to get all their stuff done before Thanksgiving, I guess, however it goes. So we're getting into that busy time, but that's also the downside because now that means that like every day you get up and already behind schedule, basically. Much like Michael, who is actually right on time with his interview.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Building Better Developers, also known as Developreneur. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help businesses take a step back and really understand what's working, what's not, and where their systems are holding them back, so they can make the right improvements with confidence. We also help them with assessments and introducing AI into their business. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing, like Rob said, we're getting into August, getting into September. Birthdays around the corner. Big 50. It's going to be a fun time this year. And then bad thing is I am turning 50, so I'm reaching that milestone. Not the milestone I want. I liked it when it was 42 because then it was like Douglas Adams 42. Answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Well, awesome.
Yes.
So,
well,
yeah.
We have another good thing is we have guests. John, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Michael. So I'm John Godlove, co-founder of Fusion Hive. So I spent over a decade in the technology and implementation space, helping companies from startups to Fortune 500s basically find, build, and deploy automation. Spent a lot of time in the Salesforce ecosystem and focused on kind of the AI and data side of things across a number of different industries. One of the common things I saw with projects that actually succeeded were not necessarily the flashy ones, but more so they're kind of the document heavy, multi-system workflows kind of on the back end that nobody wanted to really do from a manual task perspective. So Piyush and I recently co-founded Fusion Hive to basically take our enterprise delivery experience within AI and bring it to the SMB and mid-market companies. So basically businesses with similar problems, but with a lot less room for failed AI experiments.
And that leads us to the aforementioned Piyush. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rob and Michael. And John, thanks for introducing us. My name is Piyush Agarwal, and I have been in the space of AI and machine learning for over a decade now, similar to John. Built financial fraud detection systems where a wrong prediction had real consequences, so we had to be very careful with those. Architected document intelligence pipelines and also led GenAI, multi-agent architectures, production ML engineering at various Fortune 500 companies over my years so far. John and I came together to build Fusion Hive to solve these manual document intelligence, document-heavy workloads, which we see in day-to-day SMBs, even businesses, regular businesses, going a lot of that. A good thing and bad thing, feeling grateful for a good summer, spending time with family, and also for a lot of momentum, which we've been getting lately. Bad thing, it's hard balancing so many things at the same time. So trying to slow down, trying to realize that, stay present when there are a lot of things moving on at the same time, right? So that's a bad thing for me right now.
Yes, that's actually really interesting because it's a very human thing for us to get distracted by all the different things. And yet, as we're going to talk about with some of these things, with these systems, what the AI does, we call it hallucinating. For us, that's just being me or whatever it is. Like, hey, I just got, I got out of context or got into a different place. So I want to dive into, like, some of you mentioned, John, right away, as you said that you found that the ones that were, I think so, like, that people didn't want to do, the heavy manual process ones were the ones that always seem to work best, especially now when everybody wants to just automate and AI everything. Let's talk about those. Like, why do you think those are the gemstones of projects that are perfect for this kind of work?
Yeah, I think from a manual back-end process perspective, the ones that, again, are not the most flashiest and all that, those demo really well. They look great, to present to a board or a team, whatever. But for the ones that are actually going to be grounded and rooted in actual business, outcome, we often find it's the ones that are kind of on the back end where it's not front and center in front of a number of people or customers. It's the workflows that are swivel chair. You have people on the back end, in the back office that are having to swivel between different systems, rekeying information, different systems, taking emails, taking unstructured data and putting it basically into a structured data format. A lot of the SMBs and mid-market firms right now are doing that manually. And AI and LMs are very good at that type of work. And I think having a consistent process in place with AI working kind of in tandem with a human in the loop with certain processes like that can yield a really significant kind of business outcomes. The more systems that a company has, the more back and forth with different teams. A lot of what we see, again, like I mentioned, is from an email perspective, and they get a PDF with an attachment in an email, and then they have to take that PDF attachment, they have to input into another system. When you're doing that tens or hundreds of times a week per employee, sometimes it really adds up. How much time from a manual perspective is taken up in that process that can be done with AI, for example.
Piyush, your thoughts?
No, I think John hit it on the head with that. I think there is a similar kind of like ideas which are flowing around. A lot of manual back operations heavy stuff happening every day in a lot of businesses. And a concrete example I can give is like compliance documentation workflow, like daily documentation, same shape every time of the documentation, clear time cost per submission. Like we have a lot of like think about from an insurance perspective, compliance perspective, there is the similar submission. You have policy documents from insurance standpoint. You have a certificate of insurance from that standpoint. And there needs to be data oversight, weekly oversight from like people who are sitting in positions who can review those documents, right? Data is already in forms or in some databases, but we are still like trying to duplicate. There's so much of redundancy we see in these kind of workflows industries that how the AI projects or AI workflows or LLMs, they are apt for helping these industries. And again, when we talk about that, we don't talk about like just put everything into AI and let it run it. What we are talking about is so from a perspective of be deterministic where you can, right? These pulling out, extracting informations and all of that stuff from PDFs. Those are things which you can easily do with regular like libraries or regular packages even. You don't need AI for that. You don't need LLM for that. But where it comes to the picture of like you really have very text-heavy dependent workflows, go use AI for that, right? If you use a LLM for a basic regular expression, and a lot of people would understand how regex works in this podcast, I think. Or regex, however you want to say it. But regular expressions have been there for a long time. If you throw LLM at a regular expression, of course, it's going to do very well, but do you really need it? That's something which we want to understand too.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would add too is a lot of these workflows that
I
we've
love
discovered.
that. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed with a lot of these conversations, with especially in the compliance space, so like healthcare and insurance, a lot of these workflows will have exceptions. So you have the happy path, obviously, which is great for AI, and then you have a lot of these folks that are saying, hey, well, what happens, if XYZ path is taken? So it's not necessarily saying AI can handle the entire workflow end to end. There's, the exceptions is often taking up a lot of the other time as well. That needs to be taken into account, where sometimes it does make sense just to have a human to do, one of the exceptions or the non-happy paths as well. So it's important when you're thinking of the kind of full end-to-end workflow to also think through the exceptions. Does it make sense to route this for approval to another team? Can AI handle, a different agent handle a different exception, or does it truly need to go to a human to kind of finish out the task from there?
So given that, you're talking about text here. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love how you guys have now, everybody talks about human in the loop and having human review with AI, but actually you guys have sort of picked another player in that would be, instead of AI is actually just a general, uh, deterministic form problem, application or something like maybe it's just a regex or something like that. We have a very simple expression that we can run repeatedly at low cost. Now, are you guys seeing that? Is that sort of like is that a mix that as you guys are digging into these projects that the Fusion Hive looks at? Is that one of the things you typically look at? Like, how do we put in each of these boxes the specific problem we're trying to solve?
Yeah, I think I'll take that, John. So I think what we are looking at is we come from a mindset of workflow first, right? These workflows have been working in these industries or these businesses for some time already, right? We're not trying to reinvent the wheel or give them something new. We're trying to like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? We are going to understand that first. What are the outcomes you're trying to achieve with those? That's what we're going to understand. And then we are going to help you find the right value of AI within those workflows, right? I think it may not, to your point, Rob, what you brought up, understanding the workflow is the first step. And then realizing, does it need AI all the way? Or does it need AI at certain points? And where there is determinism can be added, right? Because that's what makes it easier for evaluating these workflows, the outputs of these workflows. And we will probably, as we spin down through this podcast session right now, we will talk about evaluations and exception handling. This is something which is very important in our what we try to come from. Like, if you cannot evaluate a workflow, if you cannot evaluate the outputs of your workflow, you cannot like put a number or ROI on them, like it's going to be hard. So that's where we try to understand. It's not AI always or determinism always. It's kind of like building a hybrid idea about like where AI and determinism can fit together to build that workflow at the end of the day and make it so improve your lifestyle over time, right? It could be similar, like you're spending, to John's point, he brought up, like if you're spending 100, if an employee is spending 100 hours a day or 100 hours a week, let's say, or a month or something, it's too much, 100 hours a day. I think that's not possible. About sitting at, let's say, 60 hours a week, right? Usual work days, 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week, someone's spending, do they really need to be spending 60 hours a week working on that problem when they can be using some kind of like automation or AI with determinism automation to reduce that time from 60 to 40 or even lower, right? We're trying to help.
And one thing I would add too that we've seen success with talking to customers is that when, from a workflow strategy perspective, when you're looking at a full end-to-end workflow, it's not static, right? So meaning when there's AI in the mix, it's not going to look the same. So like it's really important to like look at the kind of sub steps that are involved in that process and thinking through like, is that first sub step, is that even needed, right, in AI? So an example would be like a law firm that has paralegals that are reviewing a number of case documents. It might need to go through 2 or 3 levels of approval before it reaches the partner. But with AI, once you have evals in place where you have a trusted output from that AI, you might only need 1 level of approval to go directly to the partner. So reimagining kind of what that workflow would look like and what steps will not be needed after AI is kind of in the mix and trusted and it's working is super critical too. So not just looking at an AI or not looking at the workflow and just doing like a copy paste of like a workflow, an AI workflow within it. It's really kind of reimagining what processes are not needed anymore within that entire workflow.
So I hear regular expressions. I hear, data, lots of data, emails, processes. And I hear you guys saying some of it may be AI, some of it may not be AI. It's funny because over like the last 20 some years of healthcare and parsing files and screen scraper, all that fun stuff, it really, to me, sounds like a lot of it is data. You really could probably use AI to write you the automation scripts that you should have had to begin with to build the command line, basically almost machine language parsers to basically read through all the data, then feed it into your AI database or clean the data to put it in a place where AI can basically then pull it and give you the information you need. Is that kind of what you're doing when you're talking about this, or is it more complex than that? Am I oversimplifying?
So I think you are getting to some part of it. I think that's really good part of it. And what you're trying to get at is like, if there is data is at the base of everything. I think what we're trying to do in AI or whether in software, like data it has to be there. There's no like data is driving everything, right? So a part which you're trying to hit at is maybe if you have data in one place, which is a challenge which we have seen with a lot of other businesses we're talking to as well, is like if data is in one place and you put some AI layer or intelligence layer on top of that, then anyone can go and like up to this data in a natural language representation, right? So this is like, that becomes like a kind of like an intelligence layer or a company brain sitting on top of your data, right? So that is an important piece of the puzzle as well. And that's one of the flagship use cases we work towards. But document intelligence is also another part of it, right? When we're talking about regular expressions or when we're talking about the workflow related automations, I think how I would describe it is like, so how do you spot your first workflow, right? So there are 6 signals which we try to look at. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those topics in 6 signals. The signals of good first workflow could be, first is volume. Like if it is happening often enough that saving minutes is going to compound and help you down the road, help the business down the road. First thing, volume. Repeatability, roughly the same shape every time. So you're doing the same kind of process every time. That's kind of like going to repeatability. If there is a measurable delay or cost, right, you can point at the number of hours saved or number of dollars saved or the turnaround time changed from sending the document, bringing it back, right? That's the third one. And the fourth one, accessibility of the data, right? The inputs are already existing, whether in a database, whether in forms, emails, PDFs, whatever not, they're already existing. We just have to put them in the correct order and work through to build that workflow correctly. And then the exceptions are manageable. There are like sometimes the weird cases are minority. So in that sense, what I mean is like whatever the exceptions are, they are small enough that they're manageable to work with, right? It's like if they're routed to the human, they're manageable to work with. There are minority except. And there is one clear owner. So basically one person who cares about the outcome and can say this works or this does not work. Right? Someone in the company who can say that. So those are like 6 signals we try to look at to identify the workflow. What is a good workflow for this kind of use case where we can put like some kind of a hybrid approach with AI to help it along with that. So does that help, Michael?
Yeah, it does. Before I respond to that, though, John, do you have any comments you want to add to that?
No, I think Piyush covered it kind of across the board how we approach it. It's a really kind of systematic way that we approach these. It's important to kind of apply that same framework for each of the different opportunities so that we can kind of compare opportunities that are kind of apples to apples for a specific organization.
And that is where we're going to pause. We're going to continue our conversation next episode with John and Piyush. This is with Fusion Hive. Links will be in the show notes and all that kind of good stuff because these guys really know their stuff. They've been through this, and it's a great organization for you guys to talk to. There are some people out there. There are definitely some people out there who have no idea what they're doing in the world of AI and automation, and then there are some people out there that do know what they're doing in the world of AI and automation. And as you'll see, we tackle some really interesting challenges and things that if you are about to step into a project and it's your first one in particular, some of the things that you should think about where some of these things could go wrong or they may not be really well suited to the future. That being said, it's time for us to wrap this one up. So go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.